Hey friends, it's Maddie. Welcome back. Tonight I just wanted to give you an update on what I've read so far in November. So I mentioned in my October wrap up that I wanted to combine or split up my wrap up into two different videos because I was finding that my wrap up videos at the end of the month were incredibly long. So that's what we're doing. Today is the 15th, I think, or really close to it. Who knows what day it is anymore. But anyway, I want to tell you what I've read so far. If you hear any background noise, it is kind of late and my dad is sleeping and his room is like right there. So you may hear the TV. That's all it is. He's watching cartoons before bed. Who among us has never? Okay, so first thing I need is my iPad. So I am just going to talk about them in the order I read them, and then at the end of the month, I'll rank all of them. Obviously, I'll go more in depth on the first set of books in this video, and then more in depth on the second set of books in the next video. Okay, so the first book I read in November, first one I finished in November, was Binti by Nadia Korafor. This is the first book in a novella series. You're following this character Binti, who is the first of the Himba people, which I believe live on Earth, and they're like a small group of people, and they kind of are more naturalists and don't really care about space. And then she's the first of those people who's offered to go to this university that's like really prestigious in the galaxy. And so she just sneaks off one day to go to university, and then on her way to university, something happens on the ship, and it's about her dealing with that conflict throughout the rest of the story. It's pretty short. I think it's like 90 pages or something like that. So, I gave this book a 3-star. I really liked the first part of it, when it was about her going to school, about going to school and worrying about the troubles and stuff with that. I would have much preferred it if it had ended up being a book about like a school in a sci-fi setting, which is what I sort of thought I was getting. It ended up being about communication with aliens, a little bit, and it just kind of felt like two stories meshed into one. And the second half of the story was about dealing with kind of hostile beings to you and figuring out the differences. And I just didn't like that part as much. There's some really cool aspects of it. There's a certain, I can't remember what it's called, but it's like a paste or like a mud mask type situation that they put on, that the people of the Himba tribe put in their hair, and they cover their hair in it and their skin as well. And it ends up having, it ends up meaning so much more than just the cultural significance to the Himba people. Which I thought was really, really cool because it kind of showed the transcendence of certain customs and beliefs and things like that, which I really, really loved that part. And I even would have loved more into the background. And I know it's a novella, and maybe there's more in the next novella in the series. I would probably read the second one. I'm in no rush to read it. But if I was in the mood for a short sci-fi, I think I would go to that next. So the next book I read in the first half of November was Night of the Mannequins by Stephen Graham Jones. I freaking loved this book, okay? So this book follows this group of children who play a prank with a mannequin at a movie theater, and bad things start to happen after they play that prank. And that's all I'm gonna tell you because this book is amazing. It has a twist that is like about 25% of the way through the book. Well, okay. I realized it 25% of the way through the book that this thing was going on, or that, the story was actually about this other thing. And my jaw fell on the floor. I was like, oh my gosh, this book is actually this. And then from that moment, I was freaking sold. I saw some people not liking this because of the way it's written. I think it's written in a way where everything we're given, all the information we're given, is from the point of view of our main from the point of view of our main character, Sawyer. So he's a teenager. He talks like a teenager. He thinks like a teenager. And I think some people just didn't like that type of writing. I also think other people thought they were getting one story and it ended up being a different kind of story, but I actually really loved that surprise. And I mean, he fooled me for longer than most people probably, but I loved this so much. I read Binti and Night of the Mannequins within hours of each other. Like in the span of like 6 hours, I finished these two books because I couldn't sleep. I did it because I was sort of pseudo participating in the 1000 Doors readathon, but I wasn't going too hard and I didn't end up finishing it, but that's okay. It helped me pick out 2 books, which I really liked. Okay, then the next book that I read in the month of November was Convenience Store Woman by Sayaka Murata. And oh my gosh, okay, so I really wasn't sure what to think about this book before I went into it. It's a book about a woman who works in a convenience store and she's in her 30s and people are wondering, you know, why hasn't she moved on? Why isn't she trying to do something better with her time, or, you know, trying to make something of herself? And she's perfectly content to work at the convenience store. She's really good at it and she likes it. And yeah, I just, something about the pitch of this book really intrigued me. And I'm really glad that I ended up reading it because I really loved it. It's such a like slice of life type book. Like you're just following her for a short amount of time and you go from her working at the convenience store at the beginning and then someone comes into her life who's a new employee at the convenience store that kind of shakes up her life a little bit and maybe inspires her to question why she is living the way that she is. It was really interesting. I really enjoyed the reading experience and yeah, I really loved our main character and I just left the book feeling like it was good. And yeah, I gave that one 4.5 stars and I highly recommend that one. The next book I finished was The Devil in the White City by Eric Larson, and I was reading this for Rachel from the Shades of Orange's Discord book club, Patreon Discord book club. And yeah, this was our pick for November, and I had previously read about 50% of this book physically and really had a hard time getting into it, or not all of it, but the architecture parts of this book are not for me. So the main story of this book is based on the 1819 World's Fair that happened in Chicago. Like, this really happened. This is historical. Obviously it's true crime. So about 70% of the book, the chapters flip back and forth, but about 70% of the book is about the architecture and the people who came together to create the Chicago World's Fair and then what the fair itself looked like. And then about 30% of the book, you're following H.H. Holmes, who was a serial killer who had a murder hotel in Chicago at the time of the World's Fair and was using the fact that so many excess people were coming to Chicago to commit his crimes. He was preying on people from out of town, and then, you know, people wouldn't really know what happened and where they went. And yeah, that's my main complaint about this book, is it is just way too much about the architecture parts and the building of the World's Fair. For a book that's subtitle has murder as the first word, it's murder, magic, and madness at the fair that changed America. Murder is the first word here, and there is not a lot about that story. And I know that you can have a lot more content about that story because I've listened to podcasts that have done multi-part, 5 hours worth of podcasts on it. Like last podcast on the left did this H.H. Holmes case, and I think it was like 5 hours, 2-parter series at least. So you could have beefed that up a little bit more. And some parts of the process of starting the World's Fair and getting to the fair actually existing were like really boring. Like, I can't imagine anyone being entertained by these small, minute details that could have been told in a couple sentences and had whole chapters devoted to them. So yeah, it just, not my favorite true crime book I've ever read. Not my least favorite. I recommend it if you have interest in historical crime and the history of the Chicago World's Fair, perhaps. Just know that only about 30% of it is actually about H.H. Holmes. And yeah, I give this book 3.5 stars. Not bad, but, not my favorite. And then finally, the last book I finished in November so far, and then I'll talk about what I'm currently reading and then what I want to read next. Okay, so the last book that I finished in November so far is The Hound of the Baskervilles by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. This book I had to read for my Gothic Lit class that I'm taking in college, and it's a really short mystery. This man, Charles Baskerville, has been found dead, and one of his heirs is contacting Sherlock Holmes and Watson in order to have them investigate the circumstances of the death, and because there is this local legend about the Hound of the Baskervilles that's like a hellhound and kills people, and obviously Sherlock Holmes doesn't believe that that's real, and he knows there's a logical reason behind it. So of course he sends Watson to do his bidding, and Watson goes to the Baskerville house, and yeah, they try to figure out what the heck is going on. I really enjoyed this. I thought it was probably the least like spooky book we read in that class this semester, but I still really enjoyed the story. I always love a classic mystery, and it was a really fun reading experience with my class because I was reading it with the intent to write about how well this followed the formula of a classic mystery, and so I really liked looking at it through that lens. I only read the books I read for class if I think I would have read them outside of class, and this is one that I think I would have, so I'm gonna give this one 4 stars, and I definitely recommend it. It's my favorite Sherlock Holmes story I've read so far, but I've only read 2. The other one was A Study in Scarlet, and that one just goes off the rails for about half of it, so I recommend this one, especially if you're in the mood for kind of a spooky tale, but like not horror. Okay, so now to talk about the books that I am currently reading. You may see some familiar faces here because I'm still chugging along at a couple of these. So first, the one that you know I'm still reading is A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas. I started reading this at the very, very end of September, and I'm still reading it. I know I don't look like I've made progress. I think I've read 1 chapter. Yeah, I think I read 1 chapter, but I really like it. I just haven't been in the mood to read it. That's all I can say. I was in the mood to read those other 5 books. And then I am still plugging away at The Half That Has Never Been Told by Edward Baptist. This book is about the industrialization of America and what slavery did to contribute to that, and it's called The Half That Has Never Been Told because there's a lot of things in here that we never learn in school, and I am 111 pages into it, and I've been tabbing it as I go along. Things that I think are important, things I didn't know, stuff like that. No real system to it, just important things, marking them out with these little sticky tabs. But yeah, this is one that I don't know if I'll be able to finish before the end of this month, because I don't want to rush it. I'm really enjoying the reading experience, and I'm learning a lot from it, and it's kind of funny, after I read certain sections of it, I have conversations with my dad about it, because he's a history teacher, and so it's been a cool kind of like connection between me and my dad that we can just sit and talk about this book that I'm reading, so I'm kind of enjoying that, you know, and it's a good experience, so I want to prolong it a little bit. Okay, and then really quickly, I just want to talk about 6 books that I want to read before the end of the year. I was thinking about doing like a separate video on this, but I think it fits best in here, so that's what I'm going to do. And okay, so quickly, I'd like to get to The Five still this month, hopefully, by Haley Rubenhold. And this is about the 5 women who are murdered by Jack the Ripper. And, you know, it's you're learning about the women instead of him. Or, you know, the brutal crimes that are happening. You're learning about their actual lives. Imagine that. Then I would like to get to Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. This is a gothic, creepy romance type book that takes place in a big old creepy house. It is about this woman who marries this man, Mr. De Winter, and when she gets to his house, there's all these memories, and everything is reminiscent of his former wife, Rebecca, who has died, and she kind of like is haunted everywhere she goes by Rebecca, Rebecca, Rebecca. That's all I know. Then there are 2 Ruth Ware books I would hopefully like to get to by the end of this year, because I've only heard good things about these ones. Well, not only, but I've heard good things about these ones, and I would like to get to them. So the first one is The Death of Mrs. Westaway. This one is about a woman who receives this letter that she's inherited something from her grandmother, Mrs. Westaway, but that's not her grandmother. She goes there anyway to see if she can get, you know, something out of it, and weird, creepy stuff is happening at the place where they have to go. Wherever that is. I assume it's Mrs. Westaway's house. I do not know. And then the other Ruth Ware book I would like to get to is One by One. This is her newest book. It just came out. This book is about this tech company that goes on this retreat in this like isolated place, and somebody dies and they're trying to figure out who did it, kind of retracing everyone's steps. It's an isolated, you know, mystery with a certain closed amount of people, a closed circle of people who yeah, they're trying to figure out who done it, and it's a very small group of people. It's one of my favorite tropes. I love it so much. You know, Murder on the Orient Express, one of my favorite books. So I'm really hoping to like this. A lot of people have said that this is like super predictable and they really didn't like it, but like that's what I'm looking for sometimes in an isolated closed circle mystery. Like, it's not necessarily all about who done it. Sometimes it's about the journey to get there. And then 2 horror books I would like to get to before the end of the year. One of them is The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones. This would be my second thing by him, my first full novel that I've read, and I have heard so many good things about this. I've heard it's really creepy and spooky, and yeah, I really liked his writing in Night of the Mannequins, so I'm really hoping I like this one. And finally, I would like to get to Horns by Joe Hill. This is the only Joe Hill book I haven't read, and I've been meaning to get to it. And then Rachel from the Shades of Orange made a video about her top 10 horror books, and then I made one of my own top 10 horror books, but I realized in doing that that I really need to get to this book. It has been a long time coming. Let's get to it this year. Okay, so that was my mid-month wrap-up for November, and then a little sneak peek at books I would like to read before the end of the year, ideally by like mid-December, so that I can get some end-of-the-year videos done and not worry about currently reading books, and then I can just spend the rest of the month finishing Midnight Sun finally, maybe. But yeah, I will talk to you guys next time, and I hope you have a good day. Bye.